Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday.
Hello.
Let's try and start again. Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben.
And I'm Kay.
And today we are reviewing a web series called Ithaca.
An adventure horror psychological thriller, a family-made, no-budget indie film with a total runtime of 27 minutes. It has already captured the attention of the now executive producer Eduardo Sanchez, the creator and director of the Blair Witch Project, and writer Jamie Nash. Lovely Molly.
It's Halloween month, so I hope you're enjoying our backgrounds as for our horror-esque reviews. We're going to have it here to add to the vibe and the ghoulishness. This one came to me by way of email, and they just kind of reached out, and what I like to try and do is just be kind to all creators, all content creators, especially in this kind of COVID time. And so they sent me, so would you mind checking it out? And I thought, okay, I do get a lot of these. I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. But to my surprise, it was way better than I thought it would be, especially on a no budget.
Yeah.
And it's way more creative. So I have to give them props. We've actually got an interview with the director and the actress and the two-party person filmmaking.
Filmmaking duo.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of other people involved, obviously, but it is like totally indie, no budget.
Yeah.
And so if you want to hear from their mouths how they got this project to become what it is now,
Yeah.
and how the Blair Witch Project director is interested in helping them do a sequel,
Yeah.
then do check that out. I'll just stick it on the link at the end of here. I'm sure you enjoy that. They're very energetic, lovely people. But for now, let's talk about Ithaca.
So it's divided up into 4 chapters, and it is available to watch on YouTube.
Yes.
Yes, so you can just hop on YouTube and look for it and watch it, which is pretty cool. It's set in a sort of a post-apocalyptic, obviously we've seen this genre many times.
Many times.
It has a real feel of sort of a game aesthetic as well as a TV aesthetic. Because
Okay.
you've got moments where it feels like you're watching someone playing Silent Hill. Or a game like that where you're just totally expecting the jump scare, you're totally expecting something horrible to happen, and the tension is so built up in those moments. So you've got your 2 protagonists, or main protagonist really, who is going on a journey, and you've got kind of zombies, but it seems like you've got more than one type of zombie. You've got some that crawl and move really slowly, and you kind of like, you can just take a Sunday stroll and not get eaten. And then there's others that run. It was very interesting to have a story where you have both of these, because we're so used to having either or. In every other story that I've ever watched, apart from The Last of Us. Because The Last of Us has those as well, don't they?
Yeah.
They have some that really run at you and some that are sort of like a bit more mindless. So yeah, it was an interesting take on the whole zombie theme.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the lore behind this. The more
Yeah.
you watch as the episodes progress, the more you are more intrigued with what's going on behind the scenes, because there are imageries. There is imagery, like in flashbacks or flashes that our protagonist is either thinking about, or he's having some, not delusion, but some sort of vision.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on with him, there is more than meets the eye than just the zombies. And I'll leave that for you to discover. There were also a couple of moments that weren't jump scares, but did scare the crap out of me, which I thought was very good, because the visual imagery that they use is very good. And there are also moments that I thought, oh, you're dragging this a bit out too long. But you will find that out, that like there's 1 or 2 or 3, 4 moments in each episode where it's very mise-en-scene. They drag everything out.
They show you everything.
They show you everything that doesn't cut, and it feels awkward. But there's a reasoning behind every bit of footage that you're seeing. So it's all specifically thought out as to the story or the wider arc. And you get to find that out a bit more as the episodes progress.
Yeah.
But you don't get to find out everything in the first 4 episodes. I think they're hoping that it's going to catch on, it's going to become famous, or at least people will share it around so they can get funding to go and film on location in where?
Bali.
I think Bali for the second
Yeah.
season, because of the lore and the story that they're building from these first 4 episodes. Do bear in mind that they filmed this over 7 years.
Yeah.
So it took them 7 years to make. The fact that they managed to make anything
Yeah,
coherent
exactly.
is amazing. But just
Yeah.
think about like the fact that they filmed this during COVID. They are actors,
Some
they are
of it, yeah.
filmmakers, yeah, some of it during COVID, and they've done it all on their own. And so, well, like I said, all on their own. There are a couple of other people that are involved.
Yeah.
But it is really a family project, and I think they've done a really good job.
Yeah.
So do check it out. Leave them a comment. Share the love around, because they've worked hard on this. And as content creators, humans, regardless of whether you're into entertainment, media, reviews, whatever, we create in our life. And if you want to share that around, share the love, I think they would really appreciate that. So from me to you, please go and check out their 4 episodes.
Parts,
It's only 27 minutes of your life, and I think you'll find something of enjoyment from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Okay, I hope you enjoy the interview. So I
Yeah.
won't say goodbye, because we're going to see more of our faces right now.
Yeah.
So I've seen it twice now. Your 4 episodes, 27 minutes runtime, I guess. And Kirsten just watched it just to prep for this, and we've had a look at your IMDb pages, and I've got to ask you a few questions about those before we jump in, because I want to know about ninjas versus vampires and the 2 films. Is that where you guys met?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually met at the audition for nurses versus vampires. Ninjas versus vampires, and they were originally going to have me read for the villain, and I was like, no, this girl looks super, super pretty. I want to audition with her. And they kept us there auditioning together.
Yeah,
and,
we're like one of the first couples to audition, I guess, for those 2 roles. And we were thrown together, and now here we are. We've been married for, that was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow, that's so...
4-year-old
That's
daughter.
Yeah.
You're a team. You do stuff together. Filming. That's great. I guess we can jump straight into it. I was going to say, for our viewers, can you tell us what Ithaca is?
Yeah, so Ithaca is, I kind of considered it like a mini epic. It's been, it's an adventure, horror, drama miniseries that we've been creating for the last 7 years, and we did it through just guerrilla filmmaking. So we did it with 0 budget, just 2 to 4 crew, and just 110% hustle the entire time. And it's just been a story that's been evolving over several years.
As our lives have been evolving.
Yeah, and and then we spoke with the director of the Blair Witch Project, Eduardo Sanchez, who's not too far from us, a few states away from us, and he saw the piece and was just like, yeah, dude, I'm so hooked. Like, let me know what I can do. Like, do you want,
like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, just like how do we
make
season 2 happen? So it's amazing that after all this time of just like 7 years of not showing it to anyone, not even knowing if it's going to just get up off its feet, actually just this pandemic time has allowed us to finally finish shooting some scenes, to finish editing, creating the whole piece, and then to get it over to Eduardo. And like I said, he's just been very dedicated to helping us make a second season with an actual budget and more access to more resources, because we did pretty much just about everything on this piece
on 0 budget.
Yeah.
So how long have you been filming for then? Is it over the 7-year period?
Boy.
Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, so at first it was, we started filming 7 years ago. We had shot, several different scenes, and sometimes they worked. We had to reshoot several of them as well, several of the chapters, because for the 4th chapter in particular, we wanted to film that chapter while it was snowing. And just in this area, the snow patterns are very bizarre. It might snow super heavily on one day, and then it'll just be hot for the rest of, the winter. And you're like, we're going to get snow. So over 4 years, we had been trying to shoot that one scene because either we missed a day when it was snowing, or crew wasn't available.
Also, I think it was just in the very beginning, I guess we're not really, we got really excited, we started filming, and then it was one of those things where we sat back and we looked at the footage and we were like, this is crap. We need to go in a different direction with this, it was lack of knowledge too, I think, at that point, since completely self-taught on how you literally do all the things. We're actors first, and we were, versed in being in front of the camera, but to be a part of the work we wanted to see, we realized we have to create this. And Jay is so incredible. His capability to just learn things, especially online, through free whatever, it's just insane. What he was able to figure out, how do I operate the camera? How do I get behind it? How do I edit? What's the best software for that? All of that. And just really started teaching himself, okay, we can't rely on other people to carry this project. This has got to be entirely us. We've really got to figure this out. And thank God, along the way, we did eventually have a couple of friends that understood where we were going. Everything's fire. And they have been our right hand. But largely, this man right here, this is Ithaca. Right. Yeah. He learned how to do all of the things. He composed the music.
Yeah, the credits on IMDb are quite funny. It's producer, composer, director, actor. Yes.
Did everything. Writer.
It's very true.
It's the Tommy Wiseau of making here.
But hopefully better than the room.
I think it's somewhat better than
that. Good, I hope so.
So let's talk about it. The first thing that stood out for me was the choice of, I think, next to no dialogue. Mm-hmm. Was that because of budget? You needed a boom guy, you didn't want to put dialogue in there, and it just worked? Or was it a choice right from the beginning? You're like, this is just visual storytelling?
It was several different things. One, it was more efficient, and the dialogue just wasn't necessary, especially when we were doing with something that had a lot of flashbacks I was trying to come up with something that felt very visceral. So definitely when it comes to memories and recalling things, it's difficult to put a lot of those things into words. So I was trying to find something that stuck really with the senses, just, what it's like being able to, to hold your wife's hand or your child, and those tangible feelings create emotion in you much faster than just having to have a scene that tells you everything that's going on with words. It just wasn't necessary. And especially for something that was dealing with survival in the wilderness, one of the biggest things that really affect you is the sense of isolation. And I keep saying that, depending on how well you've managed to master the battlefield inside your mind, your choices really play out in several different, could be terrifying ways. And that was one of the things I really, really wanted to play around with this series, was just to see what that battlefield is like when you're dealing with resentment, you're dealing with guilt, and you're grieving at the same time too, because your memory of that person can change throughout.
That was good voice. I felt from the beginning that we were let's not put the words out there and, tell people what they're feeling in this moment. How much can we emote? How much can we just, with what we are doing and how we do these scenes together, how we can just convey that emotion physically, without having to say anything, hopefully letting that be the dialogue.
Yeah. And a big part of that is just the technical side, with the way you move a camera, or how you transition, or how you edit, to be able to create that guttural experience without having, once again, using dialogue to do that. And I think that's just what makes filmmaking so much fun, the idea of moving pictures, you know. And I've said this before, you know, they say that, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, when you're dealing with these moving images, that's what makes it
How much more than is filmed?
yeah, just the way you get to tie these wonderful motions together to create a story is just makes it so much fun.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, because I felt when I was watching it, I felt like there was a lot of opportunity for different interpretations, because you didn't have that narrative that was so obvious the whole way through. And there were moments, like you said, with the flashbacks, but one that really stood out to me was just the hands around the little baby's foot. And obviously, as a mother, that is something that immediately was like, it got me in the feels. And I was like, oh, baby, no. You know, and right in the beginning, when you have that little baby grow thing that's all covered in blood, and you don't need to say anything, you don't need to explain, because immediately the audience is like, oh no, that's awful. You know, something really, really horrendous has happened.
Right.
I also really appreciated the way that your sets were dressed, in a way that told the story without your character having to explain anything. And quite often it was sort of in the background, and it was like an area that you were moving through as the protagonist. The one that really stood out to me was in the second episode. You go into a building, and then there's this circle of chairs, and you're just passing through that hall or whatever it was, but there's this dark patch on the floor in the middle of the circle of chairs, and immediately I was like, what happened there?
We wanted to too, actually. We were like, what the? It's actually a giant.
Yeah, so a lot of those, for a lot of that, it was the storytelling with environment is just that's a lot of fun too, you know. And I'm just a big fan of just survival films and survival games. You know, like I love The Last of Us, and you know the way that you're able to just let the audience in on these small pieces. You know, it lets the imagination wander. And I think that's really the fun when it comes to something that might be in the horror genre or the adventure genre or survival. You know, and I really took a lot of inspiration from that game in particular, just being able to see these subtle, small clues. It lends itself to a bigger world without having to film that world. So it just made it much more efficient for us. You know, what can we do with chairs, how they're stacked up against the side, or being able to see a small quarantine note without having to read everything that's going on there. It's just you're filling in the pieces without being so upfront with it.
Yeah, it's not prescriptive. It's just it's giving clues along the way. I quite like that.
Yeah. The first episode, the end of it, you again, dialogue, it's very obvious or evident when you've chosen not to use sound, and so you have this really intense silence, I guess, for a few minutes. I felt like it, maybe it wasn't that long, but it just felt, I guess, awkward. I guess you're supposed to feel that way. So he's just watching, he's waiting for, I presume it's his loved one or his partner. I'm not really sure, because there's another woman that was later on. I'm like, what's going on?
Which one is which?
Which one's who's who?
One's got light hair, one's got dark hair.
Anyway, so he's waiting for her to turn. I presume they're zombies or a zombie creature. So that's another question we want to talk about, is the lore that you've created. But the use of, why did you decide that we're going to do like 2 minutes of just silence and make it painful? Like, what's going to happen? Why are you doing that?
It really builds anticipation.
Yeah. Well, for one, it was, I really liked the idea of, okay, well, this person has passed, and creating a little bit of mystery in terms of what the relationship is with, okay, well, she's passed, and now you're seeing him back away, but he's still just kind of like hovering off in the corner, and you're just kind of wondering, okay, well, you know, what is, you know, one, what's running through his head, but why the wait? what's going on. And a lot of the one of the ways that we were filming that in particular was from behind. We were filming the first initial sequence with them running in from behind, and there were several scenes where when I was editing it, would show a lot of my expression, how I was responding to the character's death. And as I was editing it, I just said, well, it's really not necessary to see what my expression is. There's a moment where she's passing away where you're seeing it all from over my shoulder, and that kind of documentary feel to it, this kind of like hovering over, almost kind of fly on the wall kind of experience allowed, as we were showing it to other people, allowed them to feel the emotions without having to like look at my face and say, oh, okay, we get it, he's sad. They were just instinctively just putting themselves in that position. And I thought that was really, really interesting, being able to film that scene just from behind.
Just trying to create, again, just a visceral feel for the whole film, and put you in awkward situations. Life is full of them, and as you can imagine, in a situation like that, yes, it's going to be incredibly awkward and terrifying, and what the heck do we do?
And it was fun to just play around with the silence, with the music. It's the sound design is another aspect of just the filmmaking that I really enjoyed.
Sound, music can make or break a thing.
Right. It was learning every single aspect and trying to appreciate all the masters who've worked behind the camera or worked on sound and edited, and just trying to really try. Once again, we were going for something that was visceral, and silence is just so powerful after a moment of after just an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that your use of sound was very interesting as well, because you purposefully chose to highlight certain sounds and to sort of deaden other sounds. So there's a scene where you're trying to break a lock on the door, and that's almost the only sound that you can hear, and you can see that as an actor you're saying stuff, screaming stuff, shouting, but nothing, we're not hearing any of that. We're just hearing that sort of that need to get out of the place where you are. And I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. Really cool.
There are a few scenes that really stood out to me. A couple of jump scares that the first time I watched it, I was watching by myself, scared the crap out of me. Thanks for that. How did you do the scene with the woman that gets pulled away?
Pulled backwards.
Was it just someone just dragging her and then sped up, or did you have like?
So the way that whole scene was lit was just with a little, just one little lamp. So the light that you're seeing there, that lamp lit up everything. We didn't use any additional light setups.
Yeah.
So the wonderful thing about that lamp was it created this beautiful just kind of fall away once you start going off into the darkness.
Yeah.
So we were trying to create this, her being dragged and pulled away, and
we tried several different ways.
Yeah, we tried just kind of
work.
Yeah. We tried throwing her on a little skateboard, and that just looked super
was ridiculous.
awkward.
Yeah, you could tell it was off the ground, like no matter how I tried to angle myself. So like that didn't happen. The balance was hard too. I have no core muscles at all. And I think I really discovered that and confirmed that evening.
Yeah.
So trying to balance.
It looked super goofy.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way. So we had been using these long painter's sheets, these plastic sheets, to we use them all over the place to kind of in the scene where you're seeing me walk through past all the different bodies. We just used that kind of plastic,
right?
Just threw them on the ground, and just like with her being able to lie on top of it and just hold on to one end, we had our big buddy Doug just 25 feet away, just yanking her from across the floor.
The screaming was real, guys.
So
I'm like, holy crap.
So, but she just was able to just glide across the rug.
Yeah.
So that was great. So it was a very, very simple technique that we were able to do, and I don't even think that I had to really speed up the film for that one too, which was fantastic.
It's a lot of fun. Doug is big and can carry me and run very fast backwards. So
Yeah, you must have really
Wow.
strong.
Yeah, that was pretty quick. You did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah.
That same scene, just before then, you had a weird movement, and I was wondering if you, sort of from a character that was moving,
Moving
kind of,
forwards.
yeah, kind of creepy like. I was wondering, did you remove frames to make it juddery? And then I thought about the editing process of that, because the sound effect was so hard in the floor as well.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty complex scene to kind of get right. I wondered where your creativity from that came from.
So in terms of her crawling, no, I didn't remove scenes from there at all. And for a lot of it, I wasn't. The film wasn't sped up. Or anything either. I think there was only one sequence where I had to speed the film up, and it was just when she was reaching out for my hand.
And he did bring the volume up on my hands going down, but the place that we were into was an abandoned church, right? So like it was very echoey. The acoustics were really great in that room. So every like boom like of my hands, like you really could hear very loudly throughout the whole building.
Right.
So
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the lore that you've created in this world that you've made.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that your zombie creatures, so your undead, there seem to be different rules that apply to different kinds of undead. So you've got some that can only crawl, some that can run, and almost a sense of being sentient, because sometimes they wait, for like the perfect moment to terrify you.
Yeah.
And then you also have this really interesting supernatural sort of aspect in the flashbacks and in the sort of dreamscape that you've created inside the mind. And I was wondering, like, do you have rules set out for like what certain creatures are allowed to do? Or is that not something that's still ongoing?
To the zombie lore, I adore when you're having people talk about like the fast versus slow zombies. Like I love them for different reasons. When it comes to like George Romero slow zombies, like the thing that I love about that, those are the kind of zombies that I really have like nightmares about, because I love the idea of a slow impending gloom that's just slowly closing in. And then once you tie this back into the idea of like how well you've mastered the battlefield inside your mind, what plays out can be a lot of fun. It's very interesting. So that's what I wanted to create specifically with Devon's character. So to have her, slowly crawling, to create that sense of what she represents can change from chapter to chapter depending on what the character is experiencing. It can be a physical manifestation of his guilt or his resentment towards her. As she's slowly closing in on him or following him, this view of her changes throughout. You're seeing a very, very scattered mindset that this guy has. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the fast zombies, like one, that just has changed the game for people, from, when you're watching Dawn of the Dead, the remake, and you're just like, I've got to change up my survival plans now. Mm-hmm. I love that idea that, being able to combine both of them together is, in my own way, was something I wanted to do with this supernatural part that's happening. A lot of the influences from this were from Homer's Odyssey, as well as Balinese Hindu mythology. Okay. So with Balinese Hindu mythology, that character there that you're seeing with the long fingernails is from the myth the Clonarang. Her name is Rangda, and she's just the representation of everything that's evil. She's known as just being the queen of demons, and they recognize her in a very tangible way. There's a great deal of respect for her, as well as healthy amount of fear at the same time too. And in that mythology, you know, it's not something in the Clonarang, essentially, or the Barong dance. You're seeing it's a battle between good and evil. The evil forces, this Rangda character brings up her army of demon witches and followers, and they're trying to take over the kingdom because, you know, she's widowed, she was married to the king, and then she's been exiled through black magic. What she would do is, whenever she came across any of the soldiers, she would put this spell on them that would compel them to take their own knives and try to commit suicide. So they would take their daggers out, these Chris knives, and start trying to impale them into their chest. And during this performance, you're seeing dozens of men just on the ground in an actual trance. They're saying this is the actual presence of a spirit that's making itself physically known in my body. And this is a performance that they still do today. It's been done for quite a while. Some of the first footage that we have from it, I think, was from like the 1920s when I think a German documentarian went over there and was able to film this performance. And as this is happening, this good spirit, the Barong, would enter. And the Barong would put a spell on all the people's chests that would make their chests impenetrable. But either way, you're watching an entire village just violently trying to commit suicide, violently trying to kill themselves, but these knives just wouldn't penetrate the skin. And it was a terrifying thing to watch when I was growing up in Indonesia, because I didn't understand what was happening. I'm seeing these blades physically bending on their chests, and it was remarkable. So that was a story that just stuck with me my entire life. Yeah. And especially when you're watching that, like when you're like 5 years old, you know, that does something for you. But it's also something that I absolutely adore because, you know, it's something that the entire village is responding to. They recognize, you know, this balance that's happening between good and evil through these two characters, this Barong spirit and this Rangda character, where no one dies. It's this stalemate. But here we are as people being, you know, just being tossed back and forth between them. And that was something that I love about the story from the Odyssey as well. Just this man who's just kind of at the mercy of these gods. And it's something that's just, it's eternal. You know, if you believe, you know, if you have faith in something right now, or you don't, you recognize that, you know, there's this, you know, during these pandemic times too, there's just a lot of craziness that's happened, and everyone's trying to find that balance for, you know, for whatever kind of redemption that you're looking for, you know, something to rectify all the horrible things that are happening in your life, you know, and so that was a big influence for the story of Ithaca, just this journey back home and being at the mercy of these forces that you just don't understand. And I think that's wonderful. I think that plays a big part in both the adventure films that I love from the 80s, as well as just the horror genre in general, just being at the mercy of these forces.
Gosh, that's not an influence I was expecting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Absolutely. So that's the goal for the second season that we're hoping to do. We're hoping
going to ask, what's the goal for the second season?
Yeah.
I think we want to dive more into that. There's been some really fun ideas that we've had from people on, you know, why the different zombies are the way that they are,
but then
Season 2.
especially exploring this mythology even further and being able to just reveal that more and more. There's just so much there with, you know, with the Balinese. There's such a respect that they have for you know, for culture, and it's just embedded in their lives, and it's beautiful. So our hope is to be able to film the second season in Bali and being able to just work with these, you know, everyone there is just a craftsperson. Everyone there is a dancer. But then once again, like this, you know, the spirits, the forces, the gods that they relate to are just so present in their lives, and it comes out in the art that they do, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So the opportunity to be able to work with people like that would just be so kick-ass.
Yeah.
So what's the likelihood? Because obviously COVID is stopping everybody from doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with your producer from the Blair Witch project, are you going to get help there, or how's that going to work? Just interested in the second season.
Yeah. So our focus over the past several months was, one, to just finish the project and to finally get it out. COVID has made it difficult for anyone to really do like public screenings. It was just more challenging for a piece like this to be seen in public. So we opted to go for the online route, and to be able to establish a fan base online. That makes it much easier for us to be able to come to people to say like, hey, look, we want to be able to do this second season, and we already have a history of success. And people who are interested in seeing more of the lore, to seeing the next part of the story. So our focus now is just being able to get in front of as many eyes as possible. I've already pitched the second season to Eduardo. He absolutely loved it, and actually one of the initial goals was he had finished doing a shoot for Quibi, for one of their shows, like right when they had launched. And he said, look, with the format that Quibi's going for, this could be a really great fit. Let's go ahead and just show it to them. And they absolutely loved it. The issue was, their platform is, okay, we want big names on these small screens. And considering that we don't quite have star power like Kevin Hart or anything, it was, they said it was much more of a challenge. So we just said, Eduardo and I said, all right, well, let's just go ahead and just put it online. A lot of things, everything seems to be going more the streaming route anyways. And being able to put it online gives the opportunity for viewers like you who have their own shows, who have established a fan base and a trust with their audience, to be able to say, hey, I vouch for this, or I really enjoy this, or see what you think. But also to be able to establish this kind of relationship with people during a time when everything is just being done through Zoom. These conversations are being done through Zoom, and that just makes it, it's a very bizarre and interesting time that we're in when it comes to filmmaking. Big budget projects are at a standstill and also struggling to get things out of there. Like, you're talking about a movie like Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Like, I cannot wait to see this big, incredible spectacle. But then to also know that, like, right now they're having that challenge of being able to view things on, to share things in the theater. So right now, this seems to be the best avenue for us, at least to be able to start establishing relationships with our fans, and that makes it much more fun too, to be able to communicate with them through this service.
Yeah, everyone's had to pivot, during this time and think outside the box. And I think, us choosing the direction to go the way that we are, it just seems to be the best idea all the way around, just because of this crazy COVID time that we're in. So,
Indeed.
So, having been in the film industry, we've seen so many projects from people where, they've got their little red carpet premiere, and then it just kind of goes into the vault, and you never hear from it.
And we didn't want to be in that group.
Yeah,
people,
and
I mean, yay for what they did, and that's great. All of this is hard, to put your heart on your sleeve like that, to put your work out like that. But
and definitely with people who have tried to go to distributors, where they're like, hey, we've got a distributor. Mm-hmm. And then it's in someone else's hands, and you're just sitting and waiting, and they have no control over it. So right now we've just released it, just a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. So we're just, we're getting the wheels turning. So we really appreciate the fact that you two would be like, have a chat with us. We adore that, and we can't thank you enough for that.